So we're back in English this time. My next guest is the Chief Security Advisor at Microsoft. His name is Joseph Davis. And while Joseph is the Microsoft Chief Security Advisor and focused on the healthcare and life science in the US, where he support Microsoft customer on industry-related cybersecurity and compliance matter. Now, Joseph Davis, do you hear me? Okay,
Hi,
so you hear, aye, good.
I can hear you.
Well, good. That's a good first step, and we can hear you. So I will leave you the floor, and I will let you do your presentation.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you for having me, and good afternoon. And I want to spend some time talking about how Microsoft is approaching security in 2021. Microsoft has done a tremendous amount of security in the last 5 years. And one of the things that we realize is that we're navigating in a shifting world here with the attacks growing more and more sophisticated, and the conventional security tools not really keeping pace with those attacks because they're primarily centered on perimeter security, and our regulatory landscape becoming more complex, especially for multinational companies that have to abide by literally hundreds of data privacy laws and regulations. Why is Microsoft and how is Microsoft investing in security? Well, initially it was for customer trust, right? So Satya Nadella is our CEO, and he said that businesses and users are going to embrace technology only if they can trust it. It's also the right thing to do. And just several days ago, well, actually more than several days ago, in August, Satya pledged to the President of the United States that Microsoft will invest $20 billion in 5 years, $20 billion US, to advance our security solutions over the next 5 years, and then $150 million to help US government agencies upgrade protections, expand our cybersecurity training partnerships. So we're very, very serious about security, and Microsoft has been traditionally investing about $1 billion a year in cybersecurity, compliance, and identity, at least for the last 5-6 years. That's not including acquisitions that Microsoft has done in the space. I want to talk to you about Microsoft's approach to cybersecurity. We understand that most of our customers and industries are no longer confined to a protected perimeter, meaning they're no longer really working from their wide area network in the office. And with the COVID issues that we've run up against in the last year and a half, et cetera, we have all started working from home, which really doesn't bear well to the corporate network. So what we do is our approach is to secure the organization with zero trust, which is really a perimeterless approach to security, where we verify explicitly the trustworthiness of identity and devices. We use least privileged access for every user, not only the administrators. And then we're always going to assume breach. We're going to assume that we've got a threat actor either in our corporate network or in our corporate cloud resources. And the way we implement zero trust is known as conditional access. So in a nutshell, it works like a regular computer science 101 type methodology or framework, where we have the input of the risk of identities and devices and the processing of the security policy enforcement, and then the output of access to resources like data, apps, infrastructure, and network segments. Microsoft really does have an end-to-end security story, and if you haven't been keeping up or keeping pace with all the developments going on at Microsoft, we integrate into over 40 categories of cybersecurity, and we approach it from an integrated best of suite approach rather than a best of breed approach, which means that all the products that we have will talk to each other. They will share signal. They will utilize our advanced threat intelligence. And these products are mainly services that you can connect to in the cloud rather than having to deploy either a multi-server architecture application or deploy an appliance somewhere on your wide area network. But we also, this same technology will also manage other clouds and on-prem resources as well. So primarily, you know, we're going to protect and make sure that the Microsoft cloud is compliant, but at the same time, we're going to approach it from a hybrid cloud because most of our customers are not 100% in the cloud. They still have a significant amount of on-premises resources that need to be secured and compliant. We'll also secure Google Cloud, Amazon Web Services, and any SaaS application or software as a service application that participates in modern authentication. Where Microsoft is also a leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant reports that have come out in the last 2 years. Our access management, CASB, enterprise information archiving, endpoint protection, and unified endpoint management are all in the upper right-hand quadrant of the Microsoft Magic Quadrant report. The Gartner Magic Quadrant reports. So if you were to look at Microsoft's offerings as a best-of-breed solution and not necessarily an integrated suite, you could pick and choose among the different leaders, and all of our technologies are in those upper right-hand leading quadrants. And we're also a leader in the Forrester Wave reports as well, from security analytics, enterprise email security, detection and response across the enterprise, endpoint security, unified endpoint management, unstructured data security, and cloud security gateways, which means that we're really putting security and compliance first in everything that we do. And right now, like I said earlier, we're very heterogeneous with respect to the platforms that we support. It's not just security for Microsoft, it's security for any technology you might have in your enterprise, including IoT, OT, and legacy devices. So our cyber resiliency is aligned to integrate cybersecurity with business strategy, processes, and initiatives. It's not just technology for technology's sake. We understand the challenges that our businesses are facing. So what we're proposing to our customers is to change their mindset and move into more of a growth mindset in the way they protect their assets by leveraging the cloud and also leveraging technologies that increase the hygiene of the resources that are in play, including identity devices and back-end applications and data. The growth mindset is assumed compromise, and it focuses on raising the attacker costs to enter your ecosystem, and also a rapid response and recovery. We really zeroing in to target the threats that matter to your organization so that your security analysts aren't inundated with alert fatigue. That's something we're trying to reduce. We're using cloud technologies to tap into community resources and knowledge through GitHub, et cetera, and accelerate innovation. One of the things that I typically talk about is the power of our threat intelligence. Now, we wouldn't have such powerful threat intelligence if it wasn't for the hyperscalability of the cloud. We're able to ingest and maintain trillions of threat signals a day coming from all aspects of our services. And this enables us to detect attacks and attack signatures, attack behavior before they occur in your organization. So we leverage that threat intelligence across all of our products for all of our customers. And lastly, we're looking at applying hygiene to everything, right? So lower overall risk by identifying those well-known risks right out of the gate and preventing those from causing any kind of disruption to your business. And then steadily burning down the list of new attacks, 0-day, those types of things, right? So because we're able to leverage that massive threat intelligence that I talked about before, we're able to detect more unique types of attacks based on behavior, based on the way they behave and the way they act. We can detect and defend against ones that we haven't seen yet. The key measures of success with cyber resiliency really is just the cost of an attack and ensuring that we're not going to lose money or lose business continuity over attack. And then the mean time to remediation, meaning being able to identify a threat actor in the environment almost immediately and stopping that threat actor from moving forward. So I want to talk a little bit about the shared responsibility model in the cloud. There are different cloud modalities, and I'm going to include the on-premises modality in this conversation as well. But the customer responsibility in the cloud moves to the least amount of customer responsibility with a software as a service model, and it increases slightly with a platform as a service model, and slightly again with an infrastructure as a service model. And of course, when you keep your resources on premises, the customer has owns all of the responsibility. So you can see with a SaaS model, and a good example of a software as a service or SaaS application could be Salesforce, Workday, ServiceNow, or Office 365, where the customer will always be responsible for their own information and data, how they're configuring and how they're reducing attack surface on their devices, and the accounts and identities. And they'll also, to an extent, be responsible for identity and directory infrastructure in the sense that they are going to be responsible for populating cloud-based identity management systems or cloud-based directories. But you can see that the cloud service provider in a SaaS model takes on the responsibilities of applications, network controls, operating systems, and so forth, all the way down to the physical layer. Platform as a service is slightly different. It gives you a little more flexibility and a little more access into applications and network controls. So when deploying a PaaS resource within a cloud environment, you're still going to be responsible for securing the network connectivity around that platform. And lastly, infrastructure as a service. Think of it as virtual machines, virtual switches, virtual firewalls, virtual identity in the cloud. And that is where the customer will take responsibility right up to and including the operating system. And then from a physical host, a physical network, and a physical data center, that control plane is the responsible of the cloud service provider. Whereas on-prem, you're really responsible for absolutely everything. So a great example of this, if Microsoft releases a Microsoft Exchange patch to prevent a typical type of attack, like we saw last December, Microsoft had to release a patch for Microsoft Exchange. Any customer that had an on-premises Exchange system, which is an email system that supports Microsoft Outlook, would have to apply that patch. If those customers did not have Exchange in their environment and they've moved to a SaaS model like Microsoft Office 365, they wouldn't have had to apply that patch because the Office 365 is 100% maintained by Microsoft. So what we want to do in building a resilient cybersecurity program is establish a modern perimeter, which means that we're not relying on firewalls and intrusion prevention devices at the internet egress and ingress. What we're doing is we're taking protection to the identity and we're taking protection to the device. So it becomes really an opportunity for perimeterless computing. We'd like to modernize infrastructure security to ensure that we're doing the right things, not only on-prem, but in the cloud when using and flexing your muscles around infrastructure as a service, so that we're ensuring that we're doing microsegmentation and that only individuals who should be on certain networks gain access to certain networks. And then we're building a foundation of trust, for basically trust in our services, trust in what we're providing our customers. The Microsoft security technology breaks out into 6 pillars. It starts with identity and access management, because that's really where the perimeter lies these days, is with identity. With the increase of phishing attacks, we really have to be careful about ensuring that people are who they say they are when they go to access resources. The next is with threat protection. So if you do have impersonation that occurs, you want to make sure that the attacker's impersonation is not going to bear fruit within the organization. So we want to stop those threats for the entire organization, the entire ecosystem, both in the cloud and on premises, before they have an impact on the business. Cloud security is in a separate bucket, although it integrates with all the other types of security that we do. But we want to have visibility into all aspects of how the users are using the cloud, right? So unsanctioned cloud applications and so forth, will bring that to the forefront, so that the security operation team can see that the company resources and data, information, et cetera, is being transferred to cloud systems that might not be sanctioned within the organization. And then we're also going to provide comprehensive protection for multi-cloud resources, apps, and data. Again, it's not just Microsoft security for Microsoft, it's Microsoft security that will secure AWS, Google Cloud Services, and so forth. Information protection and governance is absolutely key. So we have tools and services to implement a information lifecycle management program within your organization, so that you can do things like inevitably destroy or indelibly destroy documents and structured and unstructured data once it's finished with its life cycle. You can easily find out who has access to what data. You could use trainable classifiers to classify your data without necessarily labeling that data, so you don't leave it up to the end user to determine the sensitivity of the information that they're sharing with coworkers or the rest of the world. So we're leveraging artificial intelligence to do that data classification. And we're also able to do things like see when very sensitive data is either sent in email or copied to other organizations, or copied to cloud services outside of the 4 walls of the firewall, if you will. Risk management is being able to identify and remediate critical data risks within the organization. And quite frankly, our entire zero trust conditional access model is based on a risk profile. So if we determine that there's a high risk to an identity or a high risk to a device that's trying to access a resource, we're going to decrease the amount of access that those entities might have. Meaning, say I'm coming in from an embargoed country and I'm trying to perform my tasks the way I normally do when I'm coming in from a non-embargoed country. My experience, my access might be slightly different, right? I might have access to things that are a little less sensitive than I would have access to from a non-embargoed country. And then lastly, compliance management. We want to make sure that everything we're doing is being recorded and we can report it not only to our boards as chief information security officers, but we can show the auditors and we can show the insurance providers that we're doing what we said we were going to do, and we're practicing appropriate cybersecurity controls and compliance controls, responding to those regulatory requirements that I mentioned earlier. Identity and access management is really, like I said, is the new perimeter. And we've built our identity and access management systems for a connected world. So they participate fully in, like Azure Active Directory, in modern authentication, SAML, OpenID. You can integrate a series of SaaS apps. We're really trying to create that seamless user experience for single sign-on across the board, and not prompting the user to continuously authenticate if they've already proven they are who they say they are with multi-factor authentication. So that's really the secure adaptive access component to it. And then we're trying to simplify identity governance by understanding what the user is doing, understanding what the user should be doing, what's normal behavior, and what seems to be abnormal behavior, and picking up on that abnormal behavior to determine whether or not that is indications of a breach or a compromise. And then our goal is really a seamless user experience. We're really trying to reduce that user friction that you typically get with legacy applications. So we're providing tools for passwordless authentication, single sign-on for any user type, whether that user is in our organization or outside of our organization, they can still participate in the same single sign-on. The user self-service management so that they can do things like change their passwords on their own. If you're still using passwords, when Microsoft's trying to get away from passwords as an authentication mechanism altogether. And we also provide an application portfolio for the onboarding of applications within an organization. Then we, of course, diving a little deeper into threat protection. Our goal is to secure all clouds and all platforms, not just Microsoft Cloud and Microsoft platforms like Windows 10 and Windows 11. And then we want to be the leader in integrated cybersecurity protection and deliver rapid, intelligent response. So the response that we do deliver is based on signals that are coming from all parts of the enterprise. So we're able to take signal from all kinds of non-Microsoft cybersecurity tools and critical infrastructure tools, routers, switches, firewalls, whether they're in the cloud or on premises. And we combined those signals to really understand exactly what is happening and raise only critical and high alerts to the Security Operations Center so that they're not trying to wade through literally hundreds or thousands of high and critical alerts that really might not mean anything, wasting their time. We're staying ahead of attackers with a unified security operation experience. Azure Sentinel is our SIEM product. It's also our SOAR product. It was born in the cloud and it gives you visibility across your entire organization. So if you were to adopt Azure Sentinel as your SIEM, you would not have to deploy any hardware whatsoever in your environment. This is, and you would be able to have your on-prem devices participate in that SIEM as well as all of your clouds. Microsoft 365 Defender will secure your end users across the attack chain, and Azure Defender will do the same within your infrastructure, both in the cloud and on premises, with XDR support across the board. So we're collecting security data at cloud scale, which means really the speed of light, and we're integrating all your existing tools. We're leveraging artificial intelligence to detect all kinds of emerging threats, and so far we've been able to reduce false positives by 79%, which is pretty significant. And then respond rapidly. We're allowing you to respond rapidly with built-in orchestration and automation. So we're cutting down on that high volume, low value work that your security operators had traditionally been involved in having our security orchestration and automated response via playbooks take care of that low-hanging fruit that needs to be taken care of in day-to-day security operations, rather than having your highly paid, highly compensated security analysts having to do that work. And detect and respond across end user environments, right? You can see at the bottom of this slide here, we support Android, iOS, Mac OS, Windows, Linux from both a cybersecurity and a management perspective. So what we're trying to do here is stop attacks before they actually occur, to see those attacks before they enter your ecosystem, especially things like phishing attacks, with our best-in-class protection capabilities, and then detect and automate across silos. Traditionally, the many parts of the attack chain and the response to the cyber threat and the attack chain have been siloed within organizations, right? You have one group that's responsible for secure email, another group that's responsible for threat detection and remediation at the endpoint, somebody else who's responsible for defending identity, and somebody else who's responsible for quote unquote cloud security, or understanding what's leaving the organization and what's being sent into the cloud. Well, what we're doing is we're combining all all of those silos and ensuring that we have protection across all of them, sharing signals along the way. And we're providing the ability to hunt for threat actors across all of the Microsoft 365 data, so you can apply your unique expertise across all facets of the Microsoft and the non-Microsoft cloud experience. We're giving you the ability to view alerts and remediate across the Microsoft 365 environment in a single dashboard, meaning even if you're not using Azure Sentinel, you're just using Microsoft 365 Defender, you're going to be able to see attacks against Active Directory, attacks against end users, data loss prevention events, attacks against your cloud identity, all in one dashboard. And then we're leveraging intelligent detection and response for Azure and hybrid workloads. So we've got multi-cloud coverage. I know I've said that 2 times before, but you see at the bottom here that we have coverage for Azure, Amazon Web Services, as well as the Google Cloud Platform. So we're protecting services across the board and even in the manufacturing and the clinical network space with threats from IoT. We have a Defender for IoT service that can protect most legacy operating systems or devices that are essentially agentless, or devices where you can't provide a Defender agent. You can't install an agent. We're extending protection to virtual machines, to Kubernetes containers, SQL databases using Azure Arc, and reducing the time to remediate threats by approximately 50%. Our cloud security goes across GitHub, which we now own. We're building secure apps from the start, ensuring that security is built into everything we do. Azure Defender and Risk IQ will help you get your security posture in order. Azure Defender will help defend against the ever-evolving threat landscape. And then we're enforcing the right access controls across all of your cloud estate and on-prem with Azure Cloud App Security, Azure Purview, which can classify data in all kinds of third-party non-Microsoft applications and databases, and Cloud Knox, which will enhance your privileged access management.
Joseph, you have 1 minute left.
Sure, no, thank you for that. So I'm gonna quickly get to the end of the presentation here, and I think it's clear that Microsoft is a leader in the cybersecurity space here, but some of the things I want to leave you with are to ensure that you're implementing multi-factor authentication across your entire ecosystem. You're becoming more and more comfortable with the cloud because all of our security is based on the cloud approach, and embracing a sustainable and integrated approach to cybersecurity and compliance.
That's it for you. Well, thank you very much. And I'm really amazed because you have so much material that you had to present that you didn't even talk about the password/, new experience that you're offering to your client. So a big thank you from Montreal. It was a pleasure to receiving you from Boston. Dominic has a little gift, a virtual gift for you.
I got just a virtual gift for you, Joe, a cloud card. I don't know if we will get to even, but the path through the clouds may be safe. The role
Excellent.
is not just to be a cloud maker, but to accompany this in this journey. Thank you, Joseph, for the enlightening us to move forward safely. Thanks a lot, Joe, for your time, and talk to you soon, I hope.
Thanks for the presentation.
Thank you.